congressional legislation. And in fact, trade with South Africa increased after the legislation. And at the peak of the administration, that's Reagan, Colin Powell, and the rest, as late as 1988, just right before the collapse of apartheid, the U.S., the Pentagon, Powell's Pentagon, declared that the African National Congress was one of the more notorious terrorist groups in the world. That's Nelson Mandela and the African National Congress in Colin Powell's Pentagon, 1988. In fact, Mandela was on the terrorist list until a couple of months ago. They finally took him off, because the African National Congress was a terrorist organization. And it did carry out terror, undoubtedly. And I don't know the South African literature, but I'm sure they condemned it for, hiding in public places and not standing out in a field with uniforms so they could be shot down, and so on and so forth. So yes, I think it's something to think about, but also to think about. See, in fact, if we could ever get to the point where you had enough activism and organization to even think about a boycott, you could do something much simpler. Get the U.S. to join the international consensus, as the majority of the population already wants them to do. Then you don't have to talk about boycotts. So I don't think it just doesn't seem to me like a sensible tactic. It's quite apart from any question of principle.
Professor Chomsky, I just had a two-part question. One, the first part of the question is, what exactly is the planned outcome, is Israel's planned outcome after the recent bombings and recent action against the Gaza Strip and post-invasion? Are they really after just disarming Hamas's military wing, or do they have a complete coup planned? And also, my second question is, where could people find reliable death tolls and information about destruction in Gaza and in Israel? Because I see, a variety of numbers being thrown around about how many thousands of rockets are launched into Israel, but I never see much of a death toll associated with the thousands of rockets. I'm not sure really what their capacity is, and some people say that they're resemblant of bottle rockets. I don't know, but I'd like to know more about them, and I'd like to see if there is legitimately collateral damage in being conducted in Palestine, or if it is in fact overkill.
Well, I don't think there's any question that it's massive overkill. I mean, just look at the official casualty figures in the current invasion. The latest I saw, it's coming close to 1,000 Palestinians, which is almost undoubtedly an underestimate, because they don't count people who die because, they starve or can't get water or can't get to a hospital and so on. And I think, I don't know, I think there's like maybe half a dozen Israeli soldiers or something like that, some of them killed by friendly fire. I mean, you can't talk about overkill, we're out of that league. For reliable information about the questions you're asking, the best place I know to look is in the major Israeli human rights group, B'Tselem, which has regular publications in English, pamphlets, you can find them on the web. T-S-E-L-E-M, and they give very judicious, careful analyses of everything that's going on. As to the numbers killed by the rockets in the last years, I mean, I forget the exact number, maybe a dozen or something like that. I mean, it's just, but you can find them. And as for numbers of rockets, well, you can find them too. Like I quoted the figure 7,700 shells attacking northern Gaza before the onslaught in June 2006. That comes from Human Rights Watch. And, they do analysis. You want information on white phosphorus? Yeah, it's coming from Human Rights Watch, which tends to be pretty supportive of Israel, incidentally, you know, although they do good work. But B'Tselem is the best source I know. As to Israel's plans, well, in my view, you know, I told you what I think about the reasons for the invasion, and I presume, if that's correct, that the plans are to make those reasons work. The plan is to get quiet, peace and quiet, quiet of the graveyard, if it has to be, which will enable Israel to carry out its criminal acts on the West Bank with U.S. support and without any interference. I presume that's the plan.
Thanks.
Thank you, Noam.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna take off.